Good evening and welcome to the Dollar Dogs and Beer podcast. I'm your host Andrew. Joining me tonight, we've got Joe. How you holding up, bud?
Holding up, man. Holding up.
I know it was a rough series, but the Cal Raleigh show must go on.
Yeah, it is what it is. I didn't get to watch too much of it. I'm glad I missed the inning or two where it blew up yesterday. So hey, whatever.
It's gonna happen, and I mean he's on a practically historic pace right now. So you sometimes just got to throw your head back, give him a round of applause, and that's what it is.
Yeah.
All right, so Joe, what are you drinking tonight?
I'm going back to my roots a little bit. It's been a while since I've had this, but Evan Williams cherry on some stones, so it's not diluted. So
Nice, very nice.
need to be at my best tonight. Let's put it that way.
So Trogs has a new one out that I'm trying tonight. So they've made their Sunshine Lager for a couple years. Now they've made a variant on it this year, the Salt and Lime Sunshine Lager. So essentially, they're Cape May Brewing Company. Makes one of my favorite summer beers, tan limes. It's like a Mexican style lager, some lime in there, some salt in there, and this is Trogue's version of it. I don't think it's quite as good as Cape May's, but it's very good. And honestly, as hot as it is outside, it's a damn refreshing beer to be able to drink right now. So no complaints from me on that one.
I'd say that's a fair characterization.
So we'll roll into the Cal Raleigh show tonight. Once the dust settled, he's our MLB leader for home runs now at 31. God, I hope he decides to go in the home run derby at the All-Star game. He tortured your pitching this weekend. 4 homers, 6 RBIs. His past month's been insane. Past 29 games, 37 for 113. That's a 327 average. He's hit 16 homers and 34 RBIs. That's like video game numbers, man. That's insane.
Yeah, it's certainly certainly fun to watch, except for this weekend. So
that's fair. He's the first switch hitter to hit at least 30 home runs before the All-Star break. So let's think about some of the great switch hitters power hitting switch hitters we've ever seen. He's doing something Mickey Mantle never did. He's doing something Chipper Jones never did. Although Chipper wasn't a huge home run guy. He was 3,100 guy typically. Think about all of this powered switch hitting guys we've seen. And we've never seen one get 30 before the break until now. That's just simply incredible to me.
Yeah.
If he hits 4 more before the break, which there's definitely a good shot at the torrid pace he's on right now, he is going to tie Ken Griffey Jr. for the franchise record for most home runs before the break. Yeah. Wow.
That's pretty elite company.
Yeah.
I mean, look, obviously, I said it in the group chat today, game recognized game. The guy is on fire right now. He's having a heck of a legendary first half. This is really awesome stuff for him. And the potential has always been there, but because he's had pretty good seasons the last couple of years, but nowhere near this kind of pace right now. So there is that, and Jason in our chat this week kind of said, Cal's been absolutely insane. And, if it weren't for the way they protect everybody else that they love on, social media everywhere, he would easily be the top of the AL MVP race. And rightly so. It's crazy to me that Aaron Judge is the betting favorite, and it's crazy to Jason too that he's the betting favorite. It's not close, but it should be. So, it's a little ridiculous from that standpoint. To have it go that way, and have it kind of play out that way. The guy is absolutely on fire. He's the reason that the Mariners are anywhere close to where they are right now.
Yeah.
It's, as Jason likes to say, and I agree with him more and more every time we talk about it, most valuable player to their team. And there's no doubt that Raleigh is that right now.
Yeah. And the reason the betting favorite's going to stay with Judge is because when you look at the overall numbers, outside of home runs and RBIs, and actually surprisingly for a catcher, stolen bases, Aaron Judge leads the way by far. The WAR is 5.6 to 4.2. He's played 2 more games. He's got 342 plate appearances to 329, 105 hits to 77, 27 home runs versus 31, 61 RBIs versus 66, 6 to 9 on the stolen bases, and then the slash line 367, 468, 727 for Judge, 276, 38, 3659 for Raleigh. So yes, the pure hitting numbers do favor Judge more. I do agree with that, but you know what? Jason has this absolutely correct, as he usually does when he brings it up at the end of the year. Most valuable player to their team, and not taking anything away from the value Aaron Judge has had to the Yankees this year, especially without Giancarlo Stanton for a huge chunk of the year. Chisholm's been hurt a little bit. No Juan Soto this year. He has carried the Yankees, but I think Cal Raleigh has carried the Mariners more than Aaron Judge has carried the Yankees. If I had a vote right now and the season was about to end, Cal has my vote over Aaron Judge.
Well, and that's the thing. So this is the MVP vote. We act like it is, something that like the three of us care an awful lot about numbers and performance and the most valuable player to their team. The major leagues don't care about that. The voters don't care about that. It's all about, who's the most popular guy. I mean, let's be honest. If it weren't for that, Aaron Judge would not be the top of this betting favorite list right now. He just wouldn't be. But because he's a Yankee, because he's had the success he's had, and somehow magically isn't hurt anymore,
there's that.
It's ridiculous.
Well, and too, Joe, I'm looking at Cal's splits here, and he's definitely better as a righty against lefties. That's definitely his stronger side of the plate. 315 slash line, 371, 708 versus 258, 388, 637. He's still putting in the work as a lefty against the righties. I mean, he's hit 21 home runs as a lefty and only 10 as a righty. Now, granted, he's had a little more than double the plate appearances too. But still, you're not going to see a guy like Chipper who's going to stay pretty much the same both sides, maybe a little more power one side than the other. You're not going to see somebody like Mickey who will kill the ball from any side anymore at a torrid pace. But those splits right versus left, that he is doing that as a switch hitter, which is just so unbelievably hard to do. There's a reason you don't see many good switch hitters in the league anymore, because it's so hard to do it. And coaches tell their guys early on, let's specialize you on the side you're better on. To me, that's even more credit to Cal for this torrid pace so far.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing he's definitely got a leg up on Judge, at least as far as the hitting both sides and all of those things. I mean, honestly, without knowing that he was a switch hitter, I mean, obviously I know that plenty now, but between him and Ian Happ, I don't know too many other switch hitters in the league, and they're both the two of the better hitters in in either league that they're in. Obviously, happened in the National League, in Raleigh, in the American League.
Yeah.
And of course they have a side that they're better at. That's obvious, but it's certainly to be able to be consistent enough to warrant not being benched when there's a different guy on the mound. Like, there's a lot of value with those two guys in particular.
Yeah, there absolutely is. I mean, I know Ozzy's a switch hitter, although he's having a particularly rough year from both sides of the plate. I'm not sure I can think of too many more switch hitters off the top of my head right now.
No, I can't.
Yeah, it's, there used to be a decent number. They're never going to be a majority, but you used to see a decent number of them, and you really just don't anymore. I'm trying to think of any. I wonder if Ozzy's the only one on Atlanta's roster right now. I think he is. It's crazy to think about how much switch hitters have just gone by the wayside compared to years past.
Well, especially now with in the last 10 years with the focus on righty righty, lefty lefty, and the bullpen specialization that's happened. I mean, the easiest way to counter that would be to make everybody a switch hitter, and then that shit don't make any difference.
Yeah, it's so hard to do though. Jurickson Profar is also a switch hitter, but
okay.
Of course I wouldn't know that because he's played 4 games before he got suspended, so didn't seem long enough for it to sink in. So
I guess, yeah.
But yeah, it's such a hard skill to master, and anytime I read like biographies as a kid from old switch hitters, Mickey Mantle in particular, I remember reading his dad would force him to bat from his weak side to strengthen his weak side up. It's like he'd play all week and he'd give him like 2 games where he could bat from his strong side and the rest of it would be weak side. And that Mick later would attribute that to why he was so strong from both sides of the plate and not just one. So
right.
Yeah, so Cal, keep it going, man. Hey, Griffey's records and reach, man, go for it. Records are meant to be broken, and that would be one hell of a record and one hell of a great piece of company to be with.
Oh, absolutely.
All right, let's move it on. Francisco Alvarez, who is just coming off of being baseball's #1 prospect 3 years ago, has been demoted by the Mets to AAA. They called up Hayden Sanger in a corresponding move to back up Luis Torrens. Now, I will admit, Alvarez did have a good game on Saturday against Philadelphia, probably because Jason was at the game. That's Phillies fans. You can blame Jason for the Phillies losing the Saturday game. But he's had an awful year, man. 236, 3 homers, 11 RBIs in 35 games, a 652 OPS with 38 strikeouts in 35 games. That's never going to get it done. And let's remember, in his rookie year in 23, he hit 25 home runs. Now, yes, he's a catcher. He's not going to get a ton of at-bats, and he's not Cal Raleigh, obviously. But he should be doing better than this by now. Now, over his 4 seasons, 223, 40 homers, 122 RBIs in 263 games. So the Mets know they're not getting a high average guy out of him. They know they're getting a guy who's going to blast some homers here and there, but they're just not coming this year. So they're hoping the trip down to AAA is going to help him refocus the bat and also the defense, because he's had some mental lapses this year. And I know the injury to his hand early on probably did not help that either. It broke up his getting ready for the year routine, and he's getting back with the pitching staff. What are your thoughts? Is it the right move by the Mets to send him down to AAA, or do you think they should have ridden him a little longer at the major league level, see if he straightens it out on his own?
I mean, I don't have a problem with them going and sending him for a brief stint. I don't expect it to be a long-term stint. I expect it to be, maybe a week or 2 tops, and then he'll be back up, I would imagine. I mean, he'll definitely refocus. He'll definitely be, good long-term. I'm not worried about any long-term issues with him. It's important to note, not only did he have the issue at the beginning of the year, but he was out all of last year, I believe, with the thumb break, or the year before. So the thumb is obviously there's a mental side to the injury front, and it's impossible to ignore that as an issue. I think those are things to certainly consider. And I think that in the long run, Jason and I were talking, he'll be fine. It's been successful with Jackson Holiday. The Cubs had a brief stint where it was really good with Matt Shaw when he came back up. So it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's kind of similar to Devers in a way. Devers hits a home run and then gets traded, and Alvarez has a good game and then gets demoted. I don't necessarily think that you can. I wouldn't be worried about it if I'm a Met fan. I think, the fact that they didn't have, because it's Torrens and then this guy they called up, they don't have, Darno anymore, or any of these other guys that they used to have that were solid backups for them. Catcher is one of the positions that they've kind of not done a great job of backfilling, I think. But I think at the same time, this is a club that has a ton of offensive firepower behind it, all over the place, and the offense will be missed. But I think Alvarez will be a much better hitter when he comes back. So I'm not too worried about it.
Yeah, I think he just needs a little reset down in the minors. I think Jason's got the right point here from his discussion with you. Hopefully, after that, he'll settle in and spool back up to something more than he was. Like as we saw with the career numbers, he's never going to be a high average hitter. He's probably not going to be a high average hitter, but the power was definitely noticeably slow to come this year.
Yeah, I mean, the power is the big thing that was noticeable. I think the average is sometimes can be a bit of an overrated stat, but I think also just the consistency with the injuries he's had, because he was hurt to start the year, like you said, and I believe it was last year.
Yeah, he was hurt last year. He only played in 100 games last year.
Right. So, I mean, he missed a ton of time last year, and the ramp up didn't go smoothly at the beginning of this year. So, I mean, some of this is to be expected, and it's not necessarily something if as a tangential Mets fan, I'm not really worried about it. I think he'll be fine once he's back. He'll get a breather where it's not a high leverage situation, and he'll be fine.
Yeah, and let's remember, if there's one franchise that knows how to trade catching power at a lack of defense, it's the Mets. Exhibit A, Mike Piazza. Because he's had 4 pass balls already this year, allowed 13 wild pitches. He's only thrown out 33% of runners, so which is significant. I will admit, significantly better than his career average of 17.2. But it's also a very, very limited amount of runners at this point in the year that he's faced off against. So
right.
hopefully the whole kit and caboodle will come together for him down in the minors, and hopefully he comes back looking a little better, because he is exciting to watch. It's good to see these young guys come up, and there's not a lot of good catching in this league right now. It is an awful position. As anybody who plays fantasy baseball knows, it's an awful position to try and keep well stocked all year, because between the beatings catchers take, the extra off days, consistent production is not easy. So it's nice when you have guys that are hitting well that you can plug in there.
Yeah, the problem is that some of those more consistent guys haven't been consistent this year, so that's where the fantasy issues have been. Outside of Will Smith. Will Smith's been on fire most of the year.
Will Smith is ever the consistent man. It's sickening how consistent Will Smith is every year. It really is. Let's be real. If he stays this consistent, he's probably going to see Cooperstown at some point. He won't be a first ballot Hall of Famer, but he will see it at some point if he keeps going at the rate he is right now. Just because catchers have such different benchmarks than the rest of the league do. Yeah, 328, 9 homers, and 204 at bats, 3.3 WAR. Yeah, that's pretty damn good. I have a hard time arguing with that. All right, let's kick it on to the College World Series. Pretty good series. Even though it was a sweep, it was a pretty good series to watch. LSU won 5-3. That's their second College World Series title in 3 years. 8th overall, overcoming this year's popular Cinderella pick, Coastal Carolina, who came into the College World Series on an incredible 26-game winning streak. They were the hottest team in college baseball until they ran into LSU. The biggie yesterday, they took down Coastal Carolina ace Jacob Morrison with a 4-run 4th inning. That's the most runs Morrison has allowed all year. To put that in perspective, he went 12-1. His ERA before the game was mid to high ones. Yeah, not bad. Because the SEC is getting kind of beaten up in football lately, and they're never going to make a wave with wrestling and a lot of other sports. They're pumped up on baseball right now because they've won 6 straight College World Series titles and also 11 in the last 16 years, which to all the SEC lovers out there, let's remember, where are your schools? They're in the Southeast. where they can play baseball year round. The fact that y'all are recruiting from your own backyard and pulling in the best talent because it plays year round in your backyard, come on. This is like, why did Alabama win so many football titles? Because Nick Saban can recruit anybody he wants. It's like stealing candy from a baby. So LSU at 8 now. They're number 2 all time. USC still holds the record at 12 titles, so we'll see how much longer that lasts. Joe, I'm going to put the over-under at 7.5 years, and I'm going to take the over just because with the transfer portal nonsense being what it is, it's so hard to predict how a team's going to go year to year on that. I know it's crazy to think about that in sports that aren't football, but the transfer portal it's ubiquitous in college athletics now, whether we like it or not.
Yeah, there are certain sports where you just it's going to impact certain regions. It's going to impact certain conferences that are already good, and then they get significantly better. But that's probably a better topic for football, where we see it mostly, and maybe the huddle up guys. So
yeah. Oh, well, or college basketball. That's massive over there too. So Coastal Carolina, they won their first national title in 2016. They were trying to become the first team since Michigan in 1962 to fifth overall to win the championship in their first 2 College World Series appearances. That should give you an idea how damn hard it is to do that, because that's a long time. That's a very long time. You had a small controversy early in the second game. Coastal Carolina coach Kevin Schnall, first base coach Matt Schilling were both ejected in the bottom of the first inning. Walker Mitchell was at bat with 2 outs. Sebastian Alexander had just stolen second. Schnall went to the top steps of the dugout, gestured at home plate umpire Angel Campos with 3 fingers, and began shouting at him. The NCAA said Schnall was arguing balls and strikes. He was given a warning and then thrown out when he did not leave immediately. Schilling was tossed because he made comments as the confrontation continued near home plate as he was walking back to first. The one umpire also made what I'm going to call a LeBron-esque flop after either tripping over his own feet or being tripped by another umpire. Initially, it looked like he may have made contact with Schnall, but no, the dude's just a klutz. And Schnall said in his post-game interview, I should not be penalized for somebody else's athleticism, which I thought was a great way to say the guy's a klutz, as politely as possible, because he's right about that. Now, Joe, my personal opinion, because I went back, I watched the entire first inning after I sent the video to you guys of him getting tossed. I watched the entire first inning, and I thought the umpire had a little bit too quick of a trigger to throw him out. It was a finals game. You had a full stadium full of 25,000 fans. It was loud. Schnall was yelling. Absolutely. I understand that. It's a championship game. You give the players and the coaches a little more leeway. He was complaining about the high curveballs, which 2 were called on on the previous batter. 1 was called on the current batter. And I think the one that was called in the current batter, I didn't agree with. I thought it was a little inside. The 2 to the previous batter, though, were not that far off of the ones that not far off the ones Jacob Morrison threw in the first inning and got a called strike on as well. So it looked like the umpire, to my eyes, was being relatively consistent. But because of the contact with the umpire, potentially, Schnall would have been suspended for Game 3, which is ridiculous. I don't think there was any cause for that. And Schnall said after the game, that's why I feel a little gutted right now, because the talk is going to be about the ejection, not this team, and it's not right. The front row seat should be the 2025 Coastal Carolina baseball team, not what happened in the first inning. And that's absolutely the right comment to make, because the 2025 Coastal Carolina Chanticleers were one of the finest baseball teams to play. And they just ran into a buzzsaw. It was buzzsaw versus buzzsaw, and they just got taken down by a bigger one. What do you think?
Look, I mean, we argue on this show an awful lot about consistency from umpires. So, I mean, clearly Schnall was at or over the line, considering he was on him from the jump. So, to try to rein that in, maybe, if he was given a warning and he continued, then look, you got your warning, pal. Like, shut up.
I gotta say, it wasn't much of a warning, and he probably couldn't hear the ump. Now, part of the reason he couldn't hear the ump is because he was screaming at the guy. So,
Look,
got to keep your composure.
the fact is you were given a warning, and the story is about you instead of the rest of your team because you didn't go, okay, let me take a step back and breathe because it's the first inning.
Yeah.
This is, the sixth inning, the seventh inning. Fine, I get it. But the first inning, you completely take your team out of the game because you're clearly a very, charismatic leader of your club. Your club obviously responds to you, or you wouldn't be in this position. So to take yourself out of the game in the first inning is that's on the manager. I mean, like I said, we look for consistency in umpiring, and he was given a warning. Whether he could hear it or not is really not the point. He was given a warning, and he kind of kept going. I do think it's very big of you as a Laker fan to critique a umpire for pulling a LeBron and flopping like he was barely touched and then acting like he had a broken leg or something.
I do not count LeBron in the Mount Rushmore of Lakers greats, dude.
I didn't say you count him. I didn't say you count him in the Mount Rushmore Lakers greats. He's a part of the Lakers, and you're a Laker fan.
The COVID shortened season. He's otherwise really not. He's really screwed up more of the future of that franchise with his contract than he's helped and brought titles. That's all I'm going to say on that.
I'm not arguing with you. I'm just saying.
or
one of your own team guys doing something wrong is a good thing.
I can't stand it when I can't stand it when he flops and gets calls for the Lakers. I really can't.
Yeah. I mean, those are some of my initial thoughts. I didn't watch any of it. I mean, it's hard enough to watch some of the stuff I do with the majors. It's to carve out time for the College World Series. It's just not something I've done yet.
No, I get it.
So I mean, I don't have a huge bone to stand on as far as watching all the games or anything like that. But you're given a warning, and the story's about you instead of the team because you were given a warning in the first inning. If it's the sixth or seventh inning, I have a little less beef with it, but it's the first inning.
Yeah,
you can't take your guys out of the game that early.
Yeah, and I don't think it's a I really don't think it was a consistency in calls issue because they got one of those high curveball calls in the first inning for them. It's not. You cannot say after one inning that an umpire is belligerently against you unless it's unless it's a middle pitch they call a ball for absolutely no reason whatsoever. And that wasn't the case here. Now, that said, the trigger was a little quick. Like, I understand, I give you a warning, you keep screaming, I'm going to throw you out.
Yeah.
But the umpire didn't try to diffuse the situation at all. He didn't let the crew chief come over and try and diffuse. Like, it was basically two guys throwing as much gasoline on a fire as they could as quickly as they could. And it's unfortunate.
Yeah. I mean, unfortunate is probably the best word for it. In some of the comments Jason threw into us, do we know if the outcome's different? We don't. There's no way to know that. You hate to see the umps have that much of an effect on the team early on, but I mean, again, as I kind of said, he was on him from the beginning. So like, to get tossed that early, that's on you.
Yeah, exactly. And you'd like to make it about something else, but you really just can't.
No.
So, all right. So that's it for the College World Series this year. It was a fun one to watch. I watched a lot. I watched more than I have in the past. I think I'm going to try and start watching it more as it rolls out. And I do want to watch more of the Women's College World Series, for the Softball World Series, because that's been really, really good the last couple of years too. So those are two of my goals moving forward with the future summers coming up. Alrighty. Next up, an unfortunate topic. I was, one you really hate to see, one you really hope doesn't show up because you hope people act right, but apparently that's not always going to be the case. MLB is looking into allegations of abuse made by the wife of San Francisco Giants reliever Sean. Is it Healy?
I believe so.
Or is it Jelly? I don't.
It's either, I think it might be Jelly. I can't remember.
Jelly. Okay, we'll go with Jelly. Baseball Reference says Jelly. We'll go with Jelly. So, his wife made a post on TikTok Friday of her with the couple's 2 kids with a caption that said, "When my MLB husband abandons us on Mother's Day a week after this video was taken, once I found out about his affairs and stopped putting up with his abuse, so I've been raising 2 boys alone." He had no comments on the allegation Saturday, did add that he and his wife are in the process of finalizing their divorce. He said, quote, "I feel confident in saying that I will have one eventually, aka an official statement, but I don't have an exact timeline on that. But I would like to actually meet with the people that are handling the situation with me and for me before I actually make an official statement." Manager Bob Melvin said, "Obviously, we're aware of it. He told me about it last night. We talked to MLB at this point. It's in their jurisdiction right now, so I really can't comment on it further. And he is still eligible to play at this point in time, as he should be. These are just allegations at this point. And all there really is right now is to just wait and see what happens from here. So I'm not gonna make any more speculation into it than that. So
yeah, I mean, the only thing that I saw was that this whole process has been about a year ongoing. So, I think certainly in my mind, I'm certainly praying for the family that a resolution comes out of the whole situation in general. And, once there's more insight as to what's going on, more facts and information, certainly. But it's just too early to think about much of anything else.
Agreed. And again, until MLB makes a call on it from their end, it's just watch, wait, and see right now. All right, Joe, I think you're picking up Down on the Farm this week for Jason.
Yeah, so Jason sent his Down on the Farm guys this week. The hitter is Tristan English from the Reno Aces, which is the AAA affiliate of the Diamondbacks. This last week, he went 11 of 30, 366 batting average, 3 homers, 12 RBIs, 25 total bases.
Well, that's not bad.
And the pitcher is Ryan Johnson from the Tri-City Dust Devils, which is the High A affiliate of the Angels.
The Dust Devils, I love that.
As we say often, the minor league club names are amazing, and this is no exception. So the High A affiliate of the Angels, 2-0, 12 innings, 2 earned runs, 8 hits, no walks, 12 strikeouts.
Yep, absolutely. And that's a good week for anybody. I don't care what level you're pitching at.
Having no walks in the minors is excellent. Because we going to a lot of Barnstormers and Reading games and things like that, not having walks is a rarity.
Yeah, and it's not just because the quality of the pitching. You have to consider the quality of the umpiring in that factor too. Because I've seen some really good minor league umpires. I've also seen some really horrible minor league umpires. I'm just thinking back to a bunch of years ago. Lancaster had just won a game. I forget who they were playing, but the umpire apparently had been so bad that both teams, like, he's throwing guys out after the game because they're still yapping at him. And both teams worked together to shoo the umpires off the field. One of the funniest and most minor league baseball things I think I've ever seen. And then also, then what was that last summer when me and the family were down there for the benches clearing brawl? That shouldn't have happened if the umpires would have just taken control of the situation and had the balls to throw a pitcher out after he nails somebody in an obvious pitch. When the guy before you hits a 3-run home run and the next guy gets nailed in the ribs, that's not I lost the pitch. And then the fact that you eject him as he starts jawing, walking off the field as the teams are like, get control of the game. It's not that hard. When in doubt, just throw him out. especially when it's like mid-game. It's, they were already warming somebody up anyway. It's minor league baseball. The bullpens are warming up all game because you never know when a pitcher's going to implode, especially at the independent level. So, yeah, that's it's minor league umpiring for you. At least it's entertaining. All right, some injury updates. This one hurts. Chris Sale made a diving stop on a ground ball in the Mets series and then came back to almost finish the game. But it turned out after the game, he fractured some ribs. The Braves did place him on the 15-day IL. His return's going to be dependent on the ribs healing and pain control as well for that. Big loss for Atlanta to lose their ace, because after a rough couple weeks to start the year, Sales looked like a Cy Young candidate ever since. I mean, he's been shutting teams down, whether his team puts up any offense for him or not. So that one hurts a lot. Adley Rutschman, he's going to be out through the All-Star break after a mild left oblique strain. His backup that they called, Maverick Handley, he was pulled from Sunday's game after a collision at the plate with Jazz Chisholm. Jazz's elbow actually caught him in the head. He did officially go into concussion protocol today, so that's 10-day IL, but doesn't always have to be complete 10-day. And then I also saw Ryan Yarbrough of the Yankees, because the Yankees also can't keep pitching healthy if you paid them to, although I'm still shocked at this point that Max Fried has not gotten hurt yet, given his history with Atlanta. He has a low-grade strained right oblique. Alan Winans will be called up by the Yankees to make his debut tonight at Cincinnati. And I believe the plan that I read was that Winans will stay with the club for now, and they're just going to roll with what they have. They're not going to make any more moves, although I saw that the Yankees are very much interested in acquiring pitching who isn't getting line. What are your thoughts on the injuries, and did I miss anybody?
The only update on the injury front is that not a new injury, but Shota for the Cubs will be back on Thursday.
Let's go.
Pitching against the Cardinals. So, I mean, that's the only major injury update that I remember offhand.
Okay.
Obviously, the Braves losing Sale is a bit of a big deal. From reading some of Jason's notes on that, that's a huge deal. The Orioles going through the catching depth that they don't have.
Yeah.
And being on their fourth string catcher is not good.
No, it's not. They need somebody to pick up the slack offensively, and losing Adley was probably one of the worst things that could have happened to them.
Yeah, I'd say that's fair, and I think it certainly has been a rough go for Baltimore this year. I mean, as we mentioned previously, like Adley was my keeper for fantasy, and I got rid of him because he just hasn't been able to consistently hit this year. So the Orioles have a ton of problems, and catching depth didn't need to be added to that situation.
Yeah, I mean, they've got O'Hearn, they've got Gunnar, and really after that, that's really by and large about it. Cedric Mullins has had 12 home runs, but he's hitting .218. So, it's great you can hit a home run every now and then, but if you can't hit at all, I mean, you're really not providing much value. If it weren't for his defense, he would be negative WAR at this point, but he's sitting at 0 because of his defense. I mean, they're only positive WAR guy. They're only guys over 1 are Adley, Gunnar, and Ryan O'Hearn. Ramon Urias is close at 0.9. I mean, that's not good. That's your story for why the Orioles can't win games this year. They have no offense, and they have one pitcher. I'm sorry. Ramon Laureano is at 1.6 as well, one of the other outfielders. But between that and the fact that they did absolutely nothing to replace the loss of Corbin Burns, and a bunch of other guys left as free agents from the starting staff. I mean, this is why they're where they are.
Yeah.
So it's unfortunate though, because I really was big on the Orioles this year in the preseason.
Much tempered expectations compared to last year. So
yeah,
not tempered enough, but
yeah, I definitely wasn't picking 101. but I was assuming they would be better than what? Where do they have 33 wins right now? Is that right?
They are at
33 and 44.
34. 34.
Oh, did they win today? Okay.
Yeah, they're 34, and they're 11.5 back in that division, and they're 6 in the wild card.
Insane.
So it's not over, but it's
no.
certainly needs a huge course correct, and you're only 2 wins above the A's, and you're only 9 wins above the White Sox.
That's brutal.
Yeah.
Although they are, I mean, I guess because we should probably try to say something positive here. They are now 18 games over the Rockies.
That's not fair to the Rockies.
That's true. That's true. The Orioles have some major league level players. The Rockies really don't.
Right.
One or two. All right. Moving it on here. Jason's weekend journey. We'll get to that at some point when Jason gets back on here. It's Joe. Since you're our designated, especially when Todd's not on, since you're our designated Mets sympathizer with your ties with your father-in-law, let's be real, man. It's been rough for the Mets the past few weeks. 2-8 over the last 10, 7-game losing streak snapped by the luck of having Jason in the ballpark on Saturday in Philadelphia. The Phillies did take the series Sunday night, which Jason found shocking because they were on ESPN Sunday Night Baseball. And frankly, I agree with Jason. I thought they were going to get screwed by the Sunday Night Baseball curse. The Phillies are now in first place. They're a game up on the Mets. The Mets have been uncharacteristically bad on the road this year, 19-22. Now, they've been great at home, 27-10, and they are traditionally a strong home team, but they usually do closer to 500 on the road than this. Atlanta's coming into New York for a 4-game series, and then the Mets, they go to Pittsburgh. Now, they won't face Paul Skeens, so that's a huge boost to them. If Atlanta manages to split, because I'm tempering my bets on Atlanta because it is in New York this time, they won't have Chris Sale. So I'm going to temper my bets. If Atlanta manages a split, and if the Pirates take the home series in Pittsburgh, how worried should the Mets be at this point? Is it enough that they should be looking around saying, we need to improve this ball club, or should they say, we'll be all right, this is a rough patch, we should be able to work through it? What do you think?
Well, the next team, and you're familiar with them, is 10 games behind them. So, no, I'm not freaking worried. Like, you're 10 games behind. The next closest team in your division is 10 games behind you. And that's both in the division and the wild card. So, no, I wouldn't be worried. They're having their first rough stretch of the year because they've been on fire for 3 months, 2.5 months. It certainly is their first rough stretch they've had. This is their second turn of the rotation this week without Senga and McGill.
Yeah, I forgot they lost.
McGill went down last weekend. So it's their second round through the rotation with that. They're trying to figure out what they have depth wise. I think some of that starting pitching depth, if it continues in through this next week, do you maybe more urgently pick up a guy? Yeah, sure. But am I worried as a quasi fan of the Mets as to their standing throughout the season? No, I'm not, because they went 2-8 and the Braves went 7-3 and you're still 10 games back. So
chipping away, man. We're chipping away.
Don't get me wrong, it's not 7 games in September, but I'm not super worried if I'm a Met fan. I think
I do realize that at this point Atlanta's ceiling is probably wild card. It would take an historic collapse by both the Phillies and the Mets to get Atlanta the division. And while it's reasonably possible that the baseball gods will make one of the teams have an awful collapse at the end of the year, the odds of them both having an awful collapse to give Atlanta the division title back, I'm not even going to try and calculate those odds because it's just so low it's not worth talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's certainly will I be watching it as it develops this week? Sure. I think if they find out that Miguel's going to be down longer, if they find out Senga's going to be down longer, you're basically kind of you have Clay Holmes as kind of your top dog right now, and he's already hit his innings past any innings limit he's ever had all in his career so far. He's already passed that. So anything you get out of Clay Holmes the rest of the year is bonus innings.
Mm-hmm.
From a standpoint of what you maybe expected out of him before you bought him. Um, the fact that they're going to have to bring out Frankie Montas probably later this week or sometime this Brave series, to make up for, even though he hasn't had the sexiest lines in AAA, to give you some pitching depth, they're going to have to bring him up.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if depends how the rest of this week and maybe early next week goes before I really start to stress out. If and it kind of also depends a lot on the Phillies and the Braves and their other series outside of New York,
Mm-hmm.
this week, and kind of how that goes. So, and we're almost at the halfway point. So there's a little bit of there's a little less stress now than there would be, say, a month from now at the deadline.
Yeah, agreed. I
Yeah.
I think it's too soon for the Mets to be freaking out. I don't think organizationally that they're going to do that. Now,
No.
watching Met social media melt down after the Brave series where they got swept, that was delicious because I feel like every year, once the Mets lose a series to the Braves, their fan base and social media just goes into this little tizzy where nothing is ever going to be right. The sky's about to fall, blah, 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 blah. Personally, I enjoy it because obviously, but they got swept by Atlanta, and I'm like, okay, let's be real here. The extra innings win was a little bit of luck, and Michael Harris made some incredible catches out in center field, and Juan Soto proved that he is an idiot on the bases, which we already knew, but he just solidified that during the series. So, it,
Yeah, and I mean, look, if you take the Braves series in a vacuum, I could see being worried. If you take the Braves series on the fact that they got swept by the Rockies the weekend before, um, have not had some luck. I mean, they lost 7 in a row before Saturday. So, I
no,
mean,
they swept the Rockies. They got swept by the Rays
oh, they got
coming
swept
in.
by the Rays. I'm sorry, wrong
No, that's
wrong
okay.
team.
I was about to say, wait, the
Well,
Rockies. I know the Rockies had a sweep. I didn't think it was the
no,
Mets.
no, they got swept by the Rays, and that kind of trickled into the Brave series because they were abysmal offensively in that Rays series, and they shouldn't have been. Um, from everything I saw online and from listening to some of the Mets guys,
Well,
here and there.
when you get swept losing 9-0, yeah,
Yeah,
it's a little demoralizing.
yeah. So I mean, I think that certainly played a factor into it. Plus, McGill had gotten hurt over that weekend, so
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of stuff that was in flux going into this past week. So, I mean, I think, like I said, if the slide continues going into this weekend and both the Phillies and the Braves make positive momentum, then you may be like, okay, well, it may be time to pick up a starting pitcher of some kind who's out there, or trade for somebody, or what have you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think what's a good thing for the Mets is that they've had, um, they had, um, Acuna's brother up, who he just went back down to AAA for the time being,
Okay.
but they have him up, who's got some experience. They've got, Mauricio, who's got some experience, now finally up in the majors, and then they've got, Jankowski coming back now too, which is good. So, there's a lot of good role pieces. There's a lot of good, clubhouse pieces there. So I think they'll figure it out. I think they'll be okay.
Yeah. One thing I think the Mets should be a little concerned about is that their offense seems to have largely disappeared after the. I mean, they did sweep the Nationals, but they weren't really lighting the Nationals up, and the Nationals have been atrocious lately. Tampa Bay, they lost 7-5, 8-4. They got shut out 9-0 for the sweep. Atlanta was the 5-4 loss in 10, but then they got shut out 5-0 sales last start. They lost the sweep game. They lost 7-1. They went to Philadelphia. The Phillies lit them up the two games that they won 10-2 and 7-1. Now, yes, Saturday the Phillies couldn't pitch a win out of a wet paper bag in that one. The Mets were hitting home runs everywhere, including by a catcher that they demoted the next day because he hadn't found power yet. And they won that one 11-4. But, it's definitely something to be a little concerned about because the pitching hasn't been atrocious, but, it's starting to turn a little bit. Griffin Canning may be starting to look like he was, although he did pick up the win in Saturday. So, it's hard to say right now. Teams are going to ebb. Teams are going to flow. But definitely something I think Mets fans should keep a wary eye on because it's not enough to raise the red flag and start hitting the alarm buttons, but it's enough to say maybe Captain Picard's going to put the Enterprise in yellow alert at this point. It's enough to keep an eye on. All right, looking at some milestones. Eugenio Suarez of the Diamondbacks hit his 300th home run. Nolan Arenado hit his 350th home run. He's the 7th player all-time to hit 350 and win 10 Golden Gloves. Just incredible. Juan Soto has his 1,000th hit. He's the 84th player to do so before turning 27, and the only one of those to do it with at least 200 homers and 800 walks by age 26, which I will say, I'll trash on Soto all day for his defense and his base running. The man's got one of the best eyes for the plate in baseball.
Yeah, generational talent. Like the guy is just phenomenal from a hitting standpoint.
Nathaniel Lowe of the Nationals hit the 100 home run plateau, and Aaron Judge became the first player in the major leagues this year to reach 100 hits. All right, Joe, any other milestones that you noted that I missed?
No, but just a note on Suarez. He was hit by like a 96 mile an hour fastball in the hand wrist area tonight. So he finished he ran the bases, finished the inning, but he was replaced when in the bottom or in the bottom of that inning.
Okay.
Pretty early on tonight. So that'd be something to keep an eye out for as far as as far as that goes. And as far as the Diamondbacks go, Naylor also left the game too.
Ooh.
Early tonight. So having those guys both be missing is not good.
No, they're just treading water around 500 right now, 39 and 38 going into games today. Those are losses that the Diamondbacks really can't afford right now.
Yeah, considering the week that Suarez had last week too, it's hard to believe. He got hit in the hand tonight, so
that's brutal.
I haven't seen an official update yet, but as soon as if we get it during the show, I'll certainly pass it along.
Sounds good. All right, let's move it on to the hot list. All right, so for me for hitting tonight, I think I'm gonna go. There's a couple guys there's a lot of guys hitting really well right now. You know how the old adage, batters really start to hit up when we start to hit June. Yeah, it was really on display this last week. Let's start with Riley Green of Detroit. He had a slash line last week of 478, 501. That's a 1.5 OPS. He had 23 at-bats, scored 7 runs, had 3 homers, 10 RBIs, 11 hits, 3 doubles, 2 walks, 6 strikeouts. Since we just mentioned him, Eugenio Suarez had a monster week last week, 440, 464 and 1.464 OPS. 5 runs scored and 25 at-bats, 4 homers, 10 RBIs as well, 11 hits, 2 doubles, no walks, 6 strikeouts. Let's see. Go ahead, whatever you have for you and Jason. Then I've got 2 more guys I'll toss on if you don't mention them.
Yeah, the only one I had extra as far as hitters outside of Moneyball was Christian Yelich.
Okay.
478, 500, 652, 1152 is the OPS there. 2 runs on 11 hits, 4 doubles, 11 RBIs, 1 walk, 6 strikeouts, 2 stolen bases.
Yeah, that's a good week. Two other guys I'll mention. I'm going to mention Acuna again. 421, 593, 684, 1277. He had 11 runs scored, which is insane that he only had 19 at bats. A homer, 2 RBIs, a stolen base, 8 hits, 2 doubles, 8 walks to 3 strikeouts. Fantastic numbers. And then I also wanted to mention Ketel Marte, 458, 500, 792, 1.292, 8 runs, a homer, 7 RBIs. He had 11 hits, 5 doubles, 2 walks, and only 1 strikeout. Also, that's a great week.
Yeah.
And then Moneyball, which anybody who watched the earlier part of the show knows who's coming from Moneyball.
Yeah, Cal Raleigh from the Mariners. 500, 565, 1350, a OPS of 1915.
Jesus.
10 runs on 10 hits, 2 doubles, 5 homers, 4 of which, as you astutely outlined, were in the series against the Cubs this weekend. 12 RBIs, 3 walks, 3 strikeouts, 2 stolen bases. Guy is absolutely seeing the ball beautifully right now. It's insane.
Those are video game numbers. I don't care who you are. Those are video game numbers. And the crazy thing is, of all the guys we mentioned, that's not even the top home run hitter this past week. Like, that would be Byron Buxton, 391, 482, 1.217, 1.699, 7 runs, 6 homers, 6 RBIs, a stolen base, 9 hits, a double, 4 walks, 3 strikeouts. Like, that's an afterthought because of how well people are hitting right now, that the guy who blasted 6 home runs last week is the afterthought hitter. Like, that's nuts.
Yeah. Real quick before we move to the pitchers and stuff. According to the Diamondbacks broadcast, it's right-hand contusion, X-ray is negative.
Okay.
We'll see if that maintains after CTs or some other scans and the day after. But
I'm sure they're going to wait a day for the swelling to go down and rescan either CT or MRI, something with a little more sensitivity. Hopefully just day to day.
Yeah, just a preliminary report is all I wanted to pass along.
Yeah, that's promising at least.
Yeah.
All right. Pitchers. Despite all the good hitting, we did have some good pitching outings this past week. I'm going to start it off with Ryan Pepio of the Rays. He had 2 starts. He went 2-0, one of which was a quality start. 138 ERA, a 0.85 whip, 2 earned runs, a hit, 4 walks, 1 home run allowed, 18 strikeouts. 18 strikeouts in 13 innings. Holy crap. Yeah. I mean, if he was one of the pitchers in the Mets series, no wonder they got swept. Jesus. Let's see here. Another one. Let's go with Jose Soriano of the Angels. I feel so much for the Angels now that Wash had to step away for personal health reasons. I'm all in on the Angels looking good when he gets as good as they can when he gets back. Jose Soriano, he in 2 starts, he went 1-0, 2 quality starts, 13 2/3. 0.66 ERA, a 0.95 whip, 1 earned run, 9 hits, 4 walks, and 16 strikeouts. That's good pitching right there.
Yeah.
Any other starters for you?
Yeah, Seth Lugo from the Royals, 1-0 in 2 starts, 12 1/3 innings, 5 hits, 2 runs, 2 hit bats, 1 walk, 16 strikeouts, a .49 whip, a 119 batting average against.
Jeez.
And I mean, I think I'm more impressed by the fact that he had this guy gave up so many hits and so few runs. Slade Ciccone from the Cleveland Guardians, 2-0 in his 2 starts, 12 innings, 10 hits, 2 runs, 1 hit batter, 4 walks, 9 strikeouts, a 117 whip, and a 233 batting average against. So just for battling, when guys don't have their best stuff, and they're getting hit around a little bit. To have that kind of success is phenomenal. Slade Ciccone is his name.
Well, great name too. And you know what? Talk about bend but don't break. That's absolutely fantastic pitching to pull that off. All right, Joe. Who's the adulting reliever of the week?
You know what? I'm gonna highlight somebody else, but my adulting reliever is gonna be someone we talked about briefly before. But Estevez from the Royals went 3 for 3 in saves, 1 hit, 1 run, no walks, no strikeouts, a .33 WHIP, a 100 batting average against. But to me, just based on the entire body of the week's work, Emmanuel Clase went 4 for 4 in save opportunities in 4 innings pitched, 5 hits, no runs, 2 walks, 3 strikeouts, a 1.75 WHIP, a 294 batting average against, which, given the success that he had, is hard to believe.
Yeah, that's well, you know, when you have such strong strikeout stuff, you know, you are going to have weeks like that where they're getting hits, you're issuing walks, but you're still mowing them down as they come. So
right. So to be able to have the success he had, the team success there too, that to me it's you could almost honor both of them. I think this week.
Yeah, I think that's very fair. 101 mile an hour fastball helps with that too. Just saying.
Yeah, just a little.
Hot teams this week. I think I'm going to highlight 2, both out of the National League this week. Number 1, the Philadelphia Phillies. They took 2 out of 3 from the Mets. They're 8-2 overall in their last 10, and they took over the NL East. And I'm also going to go with your division rivals, Chicago North, the Milwaukee Brewers. They are on a 4-game winning streak right now and are 7-3 in their last 10. Much as it pains me to say that, because I can't stand Milwaukee.
It is what it is.
Hey, they're going to win games every now and then. You know, what can we do?
Yeah, I'll just say I'm just glad that right now we've got the cushion on them.
Yes.
And that we do have, I don't know how long it's going to last. You know, what I think the Dodgers obviously being 7-3 in their last 10, still having the success that they're having. Trying to build a bit of a buffer there with the Giants, which, you know, it would be nice if the Dodgers would lose a few more games and make that a little closer for my tastes.
I wouldn't be upset.
So that's the only other thing I would say. The Cardinals have been pretty steady. I mean, they're 6-4 in their last 10, but to keep this close and not to outperform expectations to this point, I think, it's fair to say.
Very fair
for them. You know, I think to be in the position they're in, given a lot of the misgivings that some of us on this show have had, and Zach had, obviously, as our in-house Cardinal guy. You know, I think to have some of those, to have the success they're having is a good thing. And the fact that I'll say this again, the fact that the Cubs are only just playing them tonight for the first time all year is stupid.
It's absolutely stupid, and it needs to stop. I honestly, if MLB wants to trash this format and go back to the previous format, I'd be all for it. I hate having not only having fewer division games, but I hate having divisional teams that I don't see until June. We didn't see the Mets until June this year. That's terrible. You didn't see the Cardinals till June. That should never happen.
I'd be happy to not see him after the way this is going. It's in the top of the 7th, and the Cardinals are up 8-1.
That's fair. That's fair, but still.
Let's put this off a little longer next year.
Now, I will say this: as much as I give crap about the Brewers, I do love it when the Brewers come to Atlanta, because both teams usually pull out their Hank Aaron era throwbacks for at least one game. I don't know if they're going to do that this year because it's in August, and Atlanta usually doesn't wear the City Connects until Friday, but they might make an exception for one of these series. So I'm certainly hoping so, because that's always, at the very least, it's a good looking game. even if the results don't always make me happy. It's a good-looking game when you see the Brewers and the Braves pull out the Hank throwbacks.
Yeah.
Joe, any other hot teams to mention besides those? Or are you good?
No, I think that covers it.
Okay. Looking at the week ahead, it's a huge week for Atlanta. They're playing 7-7, 4 on the road at New York with the Mets. Currently, that game is live. Atlanta is up 3-2. We are in the middle of the 8th. If we could stop striking out on bad pitches out of the zone, that would be great. Schwellenbach's looked good so far. Might bring him back out for the 8th. I'm not sure yet. He's only at 89 pitches. I would assume, given the rockiness of our bullpen and the fact that I don't trust Raisel Iglesias as far as I can throw him. No, son of a bitch, they're bringing Raisel Iglesias out in the bottom of the 8th. What the hell is Snicker doing? So who's going to
Snick? Keep it up.
Oh, Jesus Christ. I should never have even looked at how this game was going. Tomorrow night, we've got Strider versus Montes, and Wednesday, Fuentes versus Holmes. Oh, I forgot to mention that. Fuentes became the youngest guy to make his major league debut starting since, I want to say, Julio Urias back in like 2013 or something like that. And the third youngest Atlanta Brave to make their major league debut. So good for him. Didn't beat the Marlins, but, well, that's okay. Holmes Canning will be the closer on Thursday. And then the Philadelphia series, we got Elder versus Abel. I'm fully expecting Bryce Elder to give up 13 home runs that night because Snitker doesn't pull Elder fast enough, and he's not a guy that has a lot of wiggle room if his command is off. Schwellenbach versus Luzardo Saturday, and Strider versus Suarez on Sunday. That should be fun, and thank God it's a 1:35 game and not Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN. God, I can't stand those games one bit. For our local Baltimore fans, they did beat Texas earlier today, 6-0, so good start to the week. Tomorrow, Morton versus TBD, and then Sagano versus DeGrom. So, Orioles fans, if you want to win the series, win tomorrow because you're not beating Jacob DeGrom on Wednesday. And then they've got a weekend series at home, Tampa Bay, Eflin versus Pepio, Kremer versus Liddell, and TBD versus Bradley on Sunday. So that's it for the Baltimore Orioles. For the Chicago Cubs this week, as Joe mentioned, things are not going well right now at St. Louis. Brown versus Liberatore were the starters tonight. Tomorrow, Tyone versus McGreevy, Boyd versus Palente Wednesday, Horton versus Gray on Thursday. And then they continue their road trek in the old NL Central as they head down to Houston for Rea versus Walter Friday, Brown versus Gusto Saturday, and Tyone versus Valdez on Sunday. And of course, you guys have to get Houston when they've started to wake up and remember how to play baseball. I apologize that you couldn't get them earlier in the year when they were still floundering around, and Jose Altuve was still trying very badly to learn how to play in left field. For the Phillies this week, they actually start the week at Houston, Suarez versus Valdez, Wheeler versus Gordon, and then Sanchez versus Brown. You know, can I just say I'm very thankful that we don't have to face Wheeler or Sanchez this week for the Phillies. So
it's good to be excited about that, yeah.
Yeah, so we really need to not screw this one up. That's all I'm going to say. Although I have little faith in that right now. One more bit of news that broke just before we went on tonight. The Athletics finally, and I mean finally, like this should have happened before they left Oakland or in the offseason before opening day this year. They finally broke ground on their stadium in Southern Nevada. And let's be this is a franchise that has moved around a bit. But they were in Oakland for 57 years. It still feels wrong that they're not there. So John Fisher, the asshole owner of the A's, was joined by other dignitaries, including Commissioner Rob Manfred, Team President Mark Bedane, Nevada Governor Joe Lombardo. They planted a gold shovel with the A's logo and a baseball bat-shaped handle, into the ground on the southeast corner of Las Vegas Boulevard and Tropicana Avenue to mark the official groundbreaking. The stadium is still expected to be completed in time for opening day 2028, which that still feels like there is enough time to get that done by then. Now, had this gone another couple months, I'm not so sure about that, but they should be able to squeeze it in. The ballpark's going to be built on 9 acres of a 36-acre lot. Will be accompanied by a future hotel, resort, and entertainment complex, which will be built by Bally's Corporation, which owns the remaining 27 acres of land. This is going to be a smaller stadium, a capacity of only 33,000. The closest seats to home plate in baseball and the smallest foul territory of any MLB park, according to the renderings that were released so far. It will be fully enclosed by a roof that will attenuate direct sunlight glare while welcoming indirect natural light through the northern-oriented windows. I have not heard if they're going to do, if they're going to try and use that for natural grass or if it's going to be AstroTurf. My guess, probably AstroTurf, because the A's suck and don't do anything right. But, hey, we'll see. Why not? It is good that the groundbreaking is finally happening. The fact that it took this long into the season is still concerning, that Rob Manfred and the owners let what happened to Oakland happen to Oakland in the manner that they did so. And I know Rob's trying to do everything he can to, help out his legacy in the end. This is not going to be the way to help it, in my personal and humble opinion.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to see some momentum on this, to sort of not have the A's feel homeless right now. I think the fact that there's some, like you said, they finally broke ground. It's more of a reality. I mean, as far back as before the season, they were still figuring out the money side of it. So the fact that they've gotten that figured out and they're starting to build is a good thing.
Yes, agreed. Whether you like the move or not, it is good that they are starting to build the new stadium.
Right.
All right, Joe, anything else for you this week?
Nope.
Beautiful. All right, guys, you can find all the audio recordings on Anchor, Spotify, Breaker, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, anywhere you find podcasts. We're live on YouTube and Facebook. Merchandise is at redbubble.com/DDAB-podcast. Follow us on our Facebook page at facebook.com/dollardogsandbeer. We are presented by Dark Arrow Podcast, LLC. We are sponsored by the phenomenal Bear and Barbershop over in Mannheim. Guys, may your dogs always cost $1. May your beer always be cold, especially in this heat wave. Serious point about the heat wave. Stay in the air conditioning as much as you can. Limit how much time you're spending outside. And please, 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 as much as we do like to drink alcohol in this show, please, please stay hydrated. Don't be the next case of dehydration in the ERs, which I'm sure, having worked in one for nearly a decade, that they are already overcrowded just trying to get people hydrated. So please, folks, drink your water, stay hydrated. We'll be back next week.